we're selling the membership, the family memberships that we've been selling. We've been selling them for a little over 30 days. In those 30 days, if the zoo, if multiply that times 12, because it'd be a yearly sale, we would have collected over $500,000 that goes back to the animals, goes back to the zoo. And last year we collected from the society $107,000. So, and that was something because they get 75% and we got 25%. And that was one of the things that was a factor that kept us apart from the agreement. So we want to make sure what's best for the zoo, what we can do to make sure we put more money into the exhibits, more money for the animals, more money for the safety. So it's just kind of, and we haven't even started, we haven't hired anybody to help us. We just start selling them at the gate and kind of working it. And if we continued at that pace, it'd be over $500,000. And in the last year, we only got $107,000. And so it's one of the things that we were apart from, and you see the importance of what been going on. Now, the colonels, during the last year, there was an accreditation done, which they do on zoos, and then they give us a report and tell us what happened. So we got our latest accreditation, and I want to share with you all what the accreditation said and what it was. So Colonel Weston, our city manager, will go over that with you all. Colonel?
Thank you, Mayor. And to be clear also, and I'll read this in a moment. When I came, there's a lot of talk, and our point in doing this today is really to clarify issues, clarify a lot of statements that are being made. You've heard a lot in the media on statements coming from the society. You've heard statements coming from the city of El Paso as well. And I will tell you that everything that the mayor has said is true. Back in December of last year, we did want to change the contract. We felt that the Zoological Society being so embedded into the operations, taking 75% of the gate fees and membership fees, wasn't really good for the city and good for going to the betterment, not only of the zoo, but taking care of all the animals at the zoo. The mayor read you the numbers just now. This is not unlike a lot of other organizations that use that partner with an organization as a fundraising arm for the organization. There's nothing unusual about this. What's unusual, quite frankly, is that we've been in a contract where 75% of admissions are going to the society and not going to the intended purpose, which is the zoo itself. The last thing I'll say before I actually read the observations of the accreditation organization is we've been working in very, very good faith. I personally have reached out on multiple occasions wanting to talk to the entire board of the El Paso Zoological Society so that we're not triangulating conversations, so that we're not creating confusion, and that we're talking to the Zoological Society about what the city's true intent is of what we mean by closing out the contract and proper accountability. The proper accountability isn't a difficult ask. It's wanting to make sure that now that we have the termination of the contract, that there's accountability of the funds. Accountability of the 25% that's supposed to be coming back to the city, that should have been coming back to the city. Accountability of the 75% that's being spent properly. Accountability of the money that donors are donating to go to the betterment of the zoo and taking care of the animals. That was all we were asking for. And on each occasion, I was blocked and not able to talk to the board. I was finally able to get a meeting with the board chair, who informed me that she had full authority of the board. And so when I made the ask again, that the city would like to have a good accounting of this so that I can go back to the city council, who gave me the directive to close out the contract properly, that we could in fact do that and have good accountability of all the money. And that was ultimately rejected, and now you see where we are today. But I know that there's been a lot of conversations where, and I want to read this to you from the accreditation inspection from the Association of Zoos and Aquariums that accredits our zoo, that makes sure that we're upholding all the different standards and meeting all the benchmarks of the operations of the zoo. And I'll read you verbatim what they wrote in their report. The formal agreement among the society, the zoo, and the city is not being adhered to in practice, and does not clearly delineate the current roles and responsibilities of the support organization. There is no formal fundraising plan in place, nor have there been discussions about the society's fundraising priorities or plans, so it is impossible to determine whether the activities sponsored by or funds raised by the society meet the goals of the zoo. While the society raises some funds for the zoo, they seem very limited. The support organization does not appear to share the institution's goals and objectives, end quote. And so this is where we are today. We talked about the reasons why we have made the recommendation and the council approved to terminate the contract. You know why we are asking for accountability. We think it's important. We view those funds as public funds. Certainly the 25% that should be coming back to the city, I want to have good accountability of that so I can report that to the city council to make sure that money is coming back and going to the right place, just like the other items that we had talked about.
And for someone to say that once that contract is terminated and we no longer have an agreement, to continue to say that we have to give an agreement, or well, if we give you the following money, can we talk about an agreement again? The contract expired and we're moving in a different direction. We're going to continue to do the same thing. We're going to get an organization that will have the vision of the city, have the vision of the animals, the children, and continue to raise money. And like I said, we just started doing it on our own. And we raised, if we continue at this pace, but I think once we get an organization to help us, we're at a pace of over $500,000 compared to $100,000. Big difference. And those are the reasons why we're moving forward. We're going to open it up for a few questions. And I was just going to start with you without even saying a word, ma'am.
Can you comment at all on the allegations made by the Zoological Society in the lawsuit that they filed?
On the what?
They filed a lawsuit against the city?
Well, it's hard to believe that they would do that if if the partner would file a lawsuit against the city so they wouldn't share the money that was given to the organization for the betterment of the zoo. Now, the donations that are given by the private sector, that's something between them, but those are earmarked for the zoo. They're not earmarked for anything else. And that's where the AG will come in, and that's where the Internal Revenue will come in to look to make sure that those funds go in the right place. The 25% is money that was given to us to be able to better the zoo, and the 75%, they're supposed to use for reasonable expenses, but then also, again, to buy equipment and do things for the El Paso Zoo. So it's a shame that, I read the lawsuit to try to keep from really doing that is a shame, to be honest with you.
So to date, the society has not turned over the 25% or any funds?
We have, no ma'am. Yes ma'am.
How will this impact the zoo and the animals in the community?
Zero. It's really important to see that our budget, which is $10.1 million of the operation budget, will always continue. We've always operated the zoo. They have nothing to do with the operation of the zoo. They're raising funds to have donations. And we also, when somebody would buy something at the zoo, we'd roll up to the nearest dollar, and then that money was supposed to be donated and given back to the zoo. All we want is accountability. And we want to close out the agreement. The contract has not been renewed. We just need to close it out so we can move forward. And accountability is very important. And I think the citizens really deserve that type of accountability.
Coming off of that, I know that at least one city council member has said he is concerned about not operations of the zoo, but those extra projects, those extra fundraising, things that fundraising allows. That's
a great question, because that money needs to be turned over too. That's part of the fundraising at the zoo. The fundraising that's on anything done there is part of the money that goes back to the betterment of the zoo, the animals, the children. And that's what we're talking about. And this has really gotten out of hand, to be honest with you, to the point when they file a lawsuit to not disclose or give that money back.
Can I just make one
Go
comment
ahead,
to that also? So I think it's really clear, I want to make really clear for the public, the mayor has stated it, but we've always run the zoo. And so I know that there was concerns that, well, what's going to happen if the Zoological Society isn't involved with this? There were people that really thought that they were doing more than than what they really were doing, and that was working on the memberships, doing some with the volunteer programs. Now, look at, we're not going to, I don't want us to be in the business with city staff on fundraising, and as the mayor said, we'll find a partner to do that. But we're just fine from a staffing standpoint to do gate admissions and get 100% of the money instead of 25% that'll go to the betterment of the zoo and the animals. And we're more than capable also, and quite frankly are doing it on the volunteer programs and working on the things that the public expects to be able to do with their kids will not suffer from this change in the relationships. But I think the point of your question is fundraising, and we will find a partner on the fundraising side. That's not something I really want to do with our staff.
When the city does find a partner, will that new agreement be 100% of those funds to the city, or would it be split up?
I will not make a recommendation to the city council for anything but that partnership to be a fundraising partnership. Not a partnership on getting into the operations and selling memberships for the city. We won't do that again. I won't make the recommendation we do that again.
Are there any of the personnel allegations in this lawsuit being investigated?
Look, let me just make a comment on that, because I know there have been a lot of comments about the specifically, are you referring to?
So there's the email.
Okay, so let me address that. First of all, I want to make it really clear that those comments are unfortunate. I don't condone the comments that were made. It's not a city position, and none of us at the city condone that. That being said, I'm handling that. I also think it's really irrelevant to the issue at hand here. It's more of a distraction to that, but it's very unfortunate those comments were made.
Also, there's two other aspects to their allegations. One,
Previous allegations have been either investigated, and I don't think it'd be really appropriate for me to go over those now, but all those have been addressed.
they have been
Yes.
by HR or by...
Yes, by our organization.
Was that this year or any...
I don't have the date at the top of my head, but recently.
And going back to the fundraising, what services does that partnership provide? What extra, like the fundraising, what does it provide for the community?
You know, and it's all determined on the amount of money that's raised. But, you know, again, it goes back for the animals, to buy things for the animals, and things to continue to better the zoo for the children. So, you know, we can go through what we did with $107,000, or we can go through at the end of next year what we've done with the $500,000 we collect. Obviously, there'll be a lot more. So everything's determined based on the amount of money. But the 25% was only 107,000, and like I said, today we're tracking to do over $500,000, and that's just us doing it as people come into the gate. Once we get a partner, I think we'll see that increase quite a bit.
And just for clarity, that timeframe when we expect to happen?
32 days, we raised $42,500. You multiply that times 12, it'd be a little bit over $500,000.
¿Sí podría explicarla en pocas palabras y resumir la demanda de la ciudad en contra de la sociedad del zoológico? En español.
No, un poquito más despacio, por favor.
Sí podría explicar en pocas palabras y resumir la demanda de la ciudad en contra de la sociedad del zoológico.
Lo que vamos a hacer ahorita, acabar las preguntas en inglés y entonces hacemos todo en español para que tiene todo lo que estamos diciendo.
So the city claims...
Just, hold on, go ahead, ma'am.
So what is the estimate based on your collections once you've taken control of those funds? Like, what's the estimated that the Zoological Society could be holding on to at this point?
You know, right now, you know, they filed a lawsuit, and again, and that's so they wouldn't have to share the funding, and they want to keep the fund. I think the way we're handling it is we're going to allow who issues the 501c3s to handle that, and the Attorney General's office is the one that overlooks the city of El Paso, so they'll have to answer to them. But we need to move forward. We need to put this behind us and continue to move forward and do what's best for the community. Again, the zoo is, we are committed to the children of El Paso. We're committed to the animals, and it's really important. So we're putting this behind us and putting it in the hands of the Attorney General's office and the IRS.
Two more questions?
So the city filed the two complaints and the claim on this society. When were those filed, and is there a timeline on any action being done for those items?
So they were filed this morning. What we did was in the last city council meeting, during executive session, we instructed the city attorney to move forward. And the timeline, we had given Zoological Society till the end of Friday to really try to close out the contract. The contract has been terminated, but really to talk about the funding that was collected and how do we terminate that and show the money that was raised. Once they did send us a letter, they filed a lawsuit on 5/24 at 2/24. We did receive communication from their attorney not telling us they'd done that, but that they were not able to do that, that all their board members work, and they have a hard time getting a full board to make a determination, but they did, and they're not going to be able to comply with that. And they'd already filed a lawsuit an hour prior to that.
And we've made multiple attempts to try to talk to the zoo director. Can we speak with him at any point just to see his point of view and perspective about the situation?
I didn't hear it, so you can answer it. You guys speak up a little bit, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, say,
We've made multiple attempts to try to speak with the zoo director, Joe Montesano. Will we be able to speak with him at any point just to get his perspective about the situation?
Okay, let me answer that. Remember, this has nothing to do with him. This has something to do with a contract that was from 2012 to 2022. We extended the contract twice, and we really tried really hard to extend the contract and work with them to try to have a contract that would be, good for both parties. They turned us down, and one time they even walked out, didn't want to talk about it any longer. So that's when we said that we're going to move forward and find somebody that will be in charge of fundraising, and 100% of the money raised will go to the zoo, and that's what we've been doing. So, talking about the zoo director has nothing to do with the contract that was negotiated in 2012, and it ended in 2022. And like I said, and we have tried for the last 2 years, we've actually done 2 extensions to try to do that. So we did everything to try to work a deal out, and unfortunately we couldn't do that, so now we're moving forward.
yeah, I think that these issues are above the department, above the director level. They're really at my level and the city council's level relative to the organization. The department, after those decisions are made, they execute those directives, but they all come from starting with me and then recommendations that I make to the city council.
Are you all able to say what the last monetary transfer between the Zoological Society and the city was in terms of supporting them?
I can't tell you off the top of my head what that is, but I will tell you that it's unclear to me. It's unclear to me to this day how much money of the 25% that should be coming to the city by contract is still in their hands. It's unclear to me of what the 75% number is that should be going to the betterment of the zoo. That's unclear to me. I don't know what that number is. It's unclear to me what the conservation roundup monies that go to the society, how much that is. I don't know. I want to know. And I think that the public deserves to know. I mean, the city certainly wants to know because, it says in the summary of their complaint that the city is trying to take the society's funds. We've got no interest in taking the funds that are due to the society. We just want to make sure that money that the public expects to go to the betterment of the zoo and taking care of the animals, that that's accounted for properly, and that those monies are transferred properly. And we have, that's why we're where we are now, is because if for some reason there's been a refusal to do that and get that accountability. I don't know why, but that's why we took the actions that we took in turning it over.
Now I'm gonna go in Spanish a little bit. So, lo que estamos aquí hablando es que la ciudad del Paso mandó los datos al IRS y al Attorney General para que nos ayuda. Ellos son 501C3, no es para profit, y ellos son los que controlan eso, y les estamos ahí, que nos ayuda a nosotros